y'all. You may have noticed that we've been away for a while, but don't worry, we're just like Hunter x Hunter. We're on break, but we'll be back, we promise. In the meantime, the Wolves Den and I caught Makoto Shinkai's Your Name in theaters, and we couldn't help but talk to you about it. Here's our latest filler episode on Your Name.
We're just literally getting home from us being out.
Yeah, we watched Your Name, which was awesome. I loved it.
Good, you used the right word.
I used the right word. I did love it. I didn't love 5 centimeters per second, so I'm really happy with this film. I just think, I don't know, the story was really well put together for the most part. I wish in the beginning that they showed more of why that they didn't really know they were switching. I felt like I knew they were going to switch and they were switching, but I felt like that could have been done a little bit more smoothly.
Right, you talked about how they kept on, was like, oh, I thought it was a dream, but you didn't necessarily believe when they said that.
Right, like the first time when Makoto, not Makoto, I'm thinking Sailor Jupiter.
Taki?
No, well, when the girl was in Taki's body.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh, like I can order all these desserts. Mitsuha, yeah. I know, it's really ironic that I'm not remembering her name. It's like the whole point of the film almost. But when Mitsuha was in Taki's body, and she's like, oh, this is a dream, like I can order as much dessert as I want. And like I get why she would think it's a dream, because she went to sleep and now she's like in some boy's body and it's like weird. It's like, all right, this is a dream, I'm gonna play along. But I feel like they didn't show them get to that point where, or like show like the initial stages of like someone in a dream would do. Like first you're like, all right, I'm in a dream, but like later on when it's not so much of a fun dream. Like she never like tries to wake herself up, or like you mentioned before, we were talking about this before, like they don't do anything like, oh, this is a dream, let me like mess around and like play with the rules.
Right, that's something that I didn't really nitpick, but I could see where you're coming from. Is like they didn't take the whole, oh, this is a dream, oh, I can do whatever I want,
right,
approach.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you know, it's funny, maybe he did, because when remember when he's in, I can't tell if he thought it was a dream at this point, but remember when he made that whole scene in her class?
Oh, wait, when he kicked the table away? Maybe that's true.
I don't know if he knew what he was doing yet.
Right.
I think he would have known. Yeah. Was that in the middle of the montage where kind of like figured out what their ground rules are and all of that?
That might have been the montage, but he did do something before that. Because remember when they were talking about the two main characters, when I keep forgetting her name. Oh my god, I need to write it down. I need to write down my hand. Masuka, M. I'm gonna call her M. When M. Mitsuha. Oh my god. Okay. Now I forgot what I was gonna say. When Mitsuha, when she was first talking to her friends, they were like, "Oh my god, you were like crazy yesterday."
Right.
So maybe he did play around with the rules, and like that's why they were like, you were just all over the place. Like you made that big scene.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So I didn't actually love the film, actually. And I think there are a couple of things at work. I think the thing that I thought was great about the film, I think it was excellent in terms of how it's made. I'm the big Makoto Shinkai fan. Like I'm
fanboy.
Yeah,
you're the Makoto Shinkai hive.
Yeah, I mean, like 5 centimeters per second is my favorite thing in any medium, easily. Voices of a Distant Star means the same thing to me. I really enjoy Place Promise in the early days. I love Garden of Words. I even love his bad film like Voices of a Distant Star. I mean, not Voices of a Star, Children Who Chase Lost Voices. What I think is interesting in this film is like he finally pulled everything together. Like, because he's been in a very weird kind of movie arc. Mm-hmm. He created 2 fantastic films in Voice of a Distant Star and 5 centimeters per second. And I think that really kind of set the groundwork for like, oh, this guy's great. And then he has Place Promise in Our Early Days. There's one other movie. And then he does Children Who Chase Lost Voices. And every other film that he kind of does where it's not like super grounded, people have been very critical of what he's done, of like your character interactions here, or even like for Place Promise or Early Days, the overall narrative, which is like, like there are a lot of good like character moments and beats I love in Places, but that like the question of like the overarching story is there. Children Who Chase Lost Voices, he's just trying to copy Miyazaki, and he couldn't do it. Like anybody who tries to copy Miyazaki who's not Miyazaki usually struggles. I mean, even his son struggled.
True.
So what's interesting with this film is that it feels less moody than his other works, where Garden of Words was him coming back as like, this is my comeback album. I'm giving you like the most moodiest of like,
giving you all the moods,
all the like deep, broody mood vibes on this movie. It was a 40-minute film. It's his like, that's like, okay, this man didn't lose his touch. This is him trying to expand, but he learned everything that I wanted him to learn. Like he so in Places of Promise, the Early Days, he was trying to do the sci-fi thing to kind of wrap around some like romantic undertones and so forth, but it didn't feel natural. But it worked for this film that he leans into, and I'm not gonna go crazy into it, but he leans into like more of Japanese mythology, and even though I don't think this is based on any like full specific mythology, he leans into that, and he wraps so well around the love story. Like it's intrinsic to telling the love story,
right?
Which I think is what like bread and butter love stories for Shinkai. What he does great. If you're able to ground him in something that makes that love story or tell something about that love story, that's what he's done. When that doesn't work, that leads to problems.
I think he raised something really interesting, because I agree. I love how he put in the mythology of like the culture that he's looking for. I mean, not the culture, the
town. Emotori?
Oh, right. But even like the ceremonies they do, like it just felt very natural, and it fit into the story so well. It didn't feel forced. It wasn't feeling like I was getting like a lesson.
Right.
It was just like, oh, like this is something they do. This is like part of their traditions, and it was just so happened like oh, this is a normal day for them though. It wasn't
exactly
anything like special. Like, oh, this is the part where we teach you about this.
Right. I think the best parts of this episode, this movie, and this is gonna sound weird to a lot of you guys, it feels like a great Mushishi episode. Like when it leans into the Japanese mythology at its best, you could immediately imagine like, oh, this was a Mushishi episode. And I think that's like the highest compliment that I think Shinkai can get for doing something that's was able to pull off something that's not romantic in terms of like, the romance is not necessarily the best part of this film.
I disagree. I love the romance. I'm a big like romance person though, so that's just me.
I mean, me too.
No, because you like want your characters to be miserable at the end.
I mean, that's a part of life.
Happiness is a part of life too.
Ish.
Yes.
Ish.
Definitely.
But I'm gonna let you finish.
You gonna Kanye me? I don't know. All right. Yeah, no, I love the love story. Like, it was a bit difficult to understand what exactly made them fall in love with each other, but I do think by them switching bodies and living each other's lives, like, and having that connection with somebody and being a part of someone's life in such an intimate way, that those feelings are only natural. But yeah, I just like, there's a part that really hits home when there's a twist that happens and you don't realize how invested you are in these characters, I think, until that happens. Like, I was invested before it happens, but I think once that happens, it's like, oh, this, like, I feel like I hurt. And I did have hope before then. And then when the twist happens, it's like, oh, I didn't realize how invested I like got into this story. So that's why I think I love the romance in it, because I turned out like at first I thought I was indifferent, but it turned out I really wasn't. And then after that, the twist, I definitely wasn't indifferent towards the story.
I think the hard part about this is that they don't get to share screen time much, and it's hard for you. It's not buying into a relationship or a like people who care about each other, but they don't have shared time or shared things.
Right.
Is tough. Like you have to read into the things that they did for each other's lives, and then obviously, I mean, I didn't even think about this now, but like even how they kept on me like, oh yeah, you're not in a relationship. Oh, you're not in a relationship. And they kind of you can tell.
I don't want to be in a relationship. Yeah.
Like they're lying to each other.
Yeah, definitely. Or maybe they wanted to be in a relationship with each other, and it was like, you keep setting me up with all these other people. I don't want that. Yeah, I do think they believe that they didn't want to be in a relationship though, but there was this sort of like embarrassed, I kind of like you low key though,
right?
Feeling to it. And what else?
We'll talk about the ending soon, but be prepared we're going to go into kind of semi-spoiler territory because I think we have a difference of views of what occurred.
Yes, very much so.
Just know that I'm right and she's wrong here.
Nah, definitely not.
Especially if you prefer if you like Shinkai because he's a moody person, you'll have some perspectives on this.
If you've been dodging Shinkai because you're afraid he's going to make you feel sad and miserable by the end of a movie, you'll like Your Name.
So, you know what? Fine. We're going to deal with this straight up because we're just like building up to this.
This tension it's going to be the final ultimate battle right now.
So, if you've watched 5 centimeters, you watch the ending of this film and it feels like he's just like doing an homage of like, do you remember when they couldn't find each other? Do you remember? Right. Do you remember that moment at the train scene? No, do you remember? Do you remember? But it's like, think about all that build-up. It's like, do you remember when he thought that he was here? Do you remember when they were like running past and like every like shot composition is just like, this is blow for blow a reminder of what happened.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of those moments in the film. You talk about when the meteor scenario was happening.
Right.
That like. There's too much stuff here. Just like
the leaves falling.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it again, and give us an ending where they don't meet. Because I would say a lot. Like, I was telling Miss Johnson that there's something to be said about like the reveal twist is that it has to do with time. There's time traveling involved.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. It's just weird. I didn't think of it that way, but it is technically time travel, so yeah.
Yeah. And part of the whole thing is that time is almost like a reverse of what he's done before. In times like time kind of can bring people together. That's what he ends up communicating. Like time can bring people together, and that if you try hard to hold on to certain things in terms of like certain memories and ideas,
it comes back in full circle.
It can come back. Where I would have assumed, having been a Makoto Shinkai experienced person, that part of it is that you can have these moments that like have this impact on you, but to be able to recall them or and the way that they made you feel can become dull over time. And I felt that would have been interesting on its own to communicate, but you think otherwise.
As a non-jaded person, I do think that would have been a cool thing to emphasize. But I think the way they set up the movie, when they do meet at the end, it shows that sometimes there is this piece missing from you. Sometimes like something does leave an impact on you, even if you don't remember it. And sometimes you do need to like confront that or meet that again in order to like solve that problem or issue or to like fill that hole again or whatever.
And this is how you can know that one person's in a very positive relationship, another one is ready to have cats.
I'm like this whether or not I'm single, so I'm just an optimist, I guess. I like happy endings, like whether or not, however my personal life is going, I like my fictional world to be happy. It's my escape, alright? I don't need both worlds to be terrible.
I need it to look like how life can be. I don't need these happy endings that feel forced-ish. I mean, like, this does feel like a natural-ish happy ending, except that how in the world y'all find each other randomly by looking at each other through the subway in Tokyo. But I'm gonna let that live. That's like being in New York and two lines intersect, but it's like the E and the 1, and you're like, oh, if I get off at the next time, we can find each other.
It could have been the 1 and the 2 though.
I mean,
or
it
the
definitely
2 and
was.
the 3.
No,
You don't know the Tokyo train. Could have been on the same line. I did find it weird though that when they got off the train and they're like they go all the way like out into the street. I'm like, why didn't you guys just meet in the train station? Like obviously you should be meeting somewhere nearby here. And there was something else you mentioned that I wanted to talk about. Them meeting. Me liking happy endings. I forgot. What was your other point?
I don't remember.
But yeah, I just really like that they end up together at the end, and like this whole idea of like forgetting each other's names and how that ties to like their memory of this person, and how much that affects their memory or them remembering this like really important thing, like there's something missing. I thought that was really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's what I didn't like about 5 centimeters per second also, because the fact that they don't end up together and don't meet each other. I mean, even if they met each other and they don't end up together, I would like them to like, I hate those near misses. It's like, oh, or those misses where it's like, oh, they passed by each other but they didn't know and they were so close. It's just like, just have them meet, and even if it's terrible, even if they end up heartbroken at the end, at least they confronted it head on and they can go on with their lives. I want closure.
Man, closure is not something we always get though. Like I'm speaking as a person who's been in scenarios where I've not gotten closure, so I guess, and maybe you have too, I don't know.
I've been in those scenarios too, and
they're annoying. Yeah. But I feel like you got to depict that, like you got to capture that, and I think I guess the argument is that I can imagine someone saying like, well, if Shinkai has done it all the time, maybe he doesn't need to do it again.
That too, yeah. And I mean, there are some movies or TV shows where they do it, and I'm like, okay, like I get it, I feel it, like I'm with you on that. There's other times where I'm just like, if it's a 50-50 chance of them being happy or not, and it's just because like they happen to not.
You're right. You reminded me of something else that I thought
see each other, then that sucks. But
sorry.
No, that was it. That was my thought.
Finish your thoughts again.
No, if it was just like a 50-50 chance and it just happens that they don't meet each other because like they didn't see each other, they just happened to like be in the wrong place, wrong time, then that sucks.
Two quick other things. The movie's beautiful. It's a Makoto Shinkai film. You already know it's going to be beautiful. He's never not made a beautiful movie. Like it's always more like there's a moment in this film where he almost goes into like Princess Kaguya levels of beauty of like there's this traditional art style that he goes with, which is hyper realistic and so forth, but there's this kind of moment where essentially the main character drinks the sake and then the entire art style changes. Like, it reminds me a lot of Princess Kaguya.
That's interesting. I noticed the one thing that stuck out to me a lot was the backgrounds.
Yeah.
Like
the
backgrounds are so good. Even just like in the rooms, the attention to detail, like having the books stacked up and having like little things here and there, like snacks, and they felt like they're really nicely put together. Like, I don't know, it was cool.
Yeah, the man was made to make like, because I mean he for a while, if you go on like random blogs for like, oh, I want to find a wallpaper, and if anyone puts anime stuff, you always see stuff. His
stuff is very much like easily could be backgrounds on backgrounds and backgrounds. Like there were points in time where I'm like, I want to take screenshots of this and that and this and that, but of course we're in the movie theater, so probably can't do that.
Right. I think there's one other piece that I wish was better, which is kind of so we find out in the film that essentially this cycle of
swapping bodies.
Swapping bodies kind of happens in this family line.
Right.
Which is cool. Like, that sets up a very...
In her family line.
Right,
you
yeah.
don't know if it's in his family line, which it could be, now I think about it.
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
But what's cool about that is that it sets up like, oh, this thing has happened prior, et cetera,
For like, I guess 12,000 years, 1,200 years.
Yeah.
1,000. Wow.
But what's missing is that they don't tie it to anybody. So like, his grandmother kind of realizes what's kind of partially going on, but it's not like as if we get to know something more about the grandmother as a result.
Yeah, we just know that she's been through it before, but she doesn't remember exactly what happened.
Right, which is kind of poetic-ish, but I think that it would have been nice to give her something else. Or we had hypothesized that what about the father and the mother, because the mother passed away. So you'd think that something like this could be a part of that, deepening that story. Yeah,
that would, like, I think you mentioned it before, it would have been really cool to figure out if that's how her parents met, is that they swapped bodies and then they met up with each other and ended up together, because the father does make a very significant change after the mother passes away. So I feel like if we knew they had that strong of a connection, we could see why he would make this big change after losing a person like that.
Yeah, but I think it's excellently made. Yes. I don't think it's his best film. Might be top 3. But yeah, I if you get a chance to go see it, I would recommend it.
I'd recommend it too. I mean, I've only seen 5 centimeters per second in this film, and obviously I like this one a lot better. So, but I feel like they're also, I mean, except for like the last scene, they're definitely different. Like 5 centimeters.
Very different.
They're set in like these like 3 parts and like 3 different settings of a person's life, and Your Name is more like a feature film. Your very typical film, you know, beginning, middle, end kind of thing.
Yeah. He accomplished a lot. I'm really proud of where he's gone, and I'm excited for what this means next, because now he finally fixed something that he was struggling with.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I might check out his other films. I don't know, because I want to, but I'm afraid that all of them have terrible endings or sad endings, and this is the only happy one. And I'm just like, I don't know. You're
gonna watch Garden of Words.
I'm gonna watch Garden of Words, and I want to watch the one where you sent to Miyazaki.
Okay.
But we'll see.
All right, guys. Peace.
Thanks for listening.